This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Everybody, there he is, locked and loaded and ready to go. Do you have? Is there a ticket taker for the portal, in and out, and all that? How do they handle that stuff? Is it in the metaverse?
Yeah, I wish there was. I wish we all just got alerted on our phone the moment that popped in. There is an actual database or whatever that our Max Olson over at The Athletic spends all day literally watching as names pop in there one by one. He keeps hitting the refresh.
We should talk to Decentraland or Gala. These are crypto companies, by the way. I know you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but the metaverse is something enormous, right? Facebook is called Meta now. And so these meta games are going to be all over the place, dude. You're going to have people meeting each other at meta bars. So instead of a chat, there'll be like, people that are physically talking to each other in their lookalikes and all that kind of stuff. You're going to have classes. You're going to have businesses, retail stores, all kinds of things. People will be shopping, meeting, discussing business in the metaverse. All right. One person might be in France. Another person might be in the United States. Some person might be in Little Havana. Another person might be in Kendall. It doesn't matter. But they'll all be in the metaverse working and dealing with each other and all that kind of stuff. I say we create a visual metaverse in the, a portal in the metaverse where we watch them come in, and then they come in a UM uniform, and then they walk out with a Jackson State uniform, or they walk in with Auburn and walk out with Miami. That
right?
Cool.
That would be very cool. It sounds like a good movie. If you can get some graphic guys involved, we can visualize it. We can make it happen now in today's era. Look, there's a lot of names in there, man. I don't know. I was right before I got on the show with you. I was going to look up to see what the numbers updated to. I think it's closing in on 1,000 already today, as far as the amount of names that are in there just in the past that are officially in there anyway.
How many of those kids already know where they're going? And how many of those kids have?
I would say the upper crust. No, I would say the top 2%, top 1%. Because they, through back channels, a lot of them probably already had conversations with the coaching staffs behind the scenes. Through an intermediary, to avoid the tampering rules. But yeah, I mean, I would tend to think that the best of the best have a good idea of where they're going, and the ones that don't have narrowed it down. They're going to take official visits. Those kind of things, and see the campus and visit with the coaches and make a decision. So, and the other thing I would say is this is probably going to be a slow drip. Everybody keeps asking me, why hasn't Miami already added guys, right? There's guys in the transfer portal and this and that. I go, a lot of this is, them breaking down and really getting all the information they need on the guys who are in there. Because there are new guys in there that they're not necessarily aware of. Not everybody calls the University of Miami and says, hey, I'm entering the transfer portal. And so you have a very busy transfer portal department right now. Mario Cristobal got himself ready for that. He had obviously Alonzo Highsmith and some other guys that he hired to be prepared for this moment. And but I think it's a lot of work behind the scenes to know what's going to happen. That's why it's a 45-day window, this early period. And in the middle of that window, is the 3-day signing period for the high school recruits. So you're kind of juggling scholarship numbers, and then you're juggling, where do I need instant impact? Where do I need guys that I don't have to develop because they've already played college football? So it'll be a very interesting juggling act for every college football coach now that we have these set windows, between the transfer portal period and then the high school signing period, and then the next high school signing period in February, followed by the next transfer portal period at the end of spring football. So it's going to be free agency. It's going to be looking at what you have, looking at what you missed out on in recruiting, and then saying, okay, how do we address that?
So, how does Ruiz work in all of this? Because I was just talking about that, how it's funny to me how, you watch the whole Dion thing and you got people that are wanting him to like fail practically. And it's like,
yeah.
And I see Ruiz deal with this shit all the time. It's like, bro, it's not your money. What do you give a shit? Like, what do you care that he's helping a kid at FIU or at Miami or at Florida State or Florida and helping him with an NIL? He's helping these kids grow up. He's helping them deal with real life situations like earning money and paying taxes and representing a company, so they've got to they have response. It's like he's giving them opportunity. Why would you hate that? That's the part that I always trip out on. Like, why would you be so negative about these kind of things?
Right.
So how does Ruiz play? Because he's obviously plays an active role in a lot of this stuff that goes on. But how does the communication go about all of that? What the team is trying to do, what Ruiz is trying to accomplish? How does that bridge get gapped?
Well, first of all, I think that's the major flaw in college football
How
right
does
now.
that gap get bridged? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
First.
Well, what I was going to say is just I think that's a major flaw in this whole system right now for college football, because you're supposed to separate church and state here, based on the way the rules are written, right? That you're not allowed to have boosters paying guys for the recruiting department. It's supposed to be, you don't sign those NIL deals until after you pick the university, etc. So to me, it's ass backwards. At some point here, the NCAA or whoever's in charge, whether it's somebody else who takes power of college football, that ultimately these guys have to have a clear-cut connection where they can work not head to head, but work with the school, because a lot of it has to be through back channels, right? Through individuals, through the 7-on-7 coaches, through the high school coaches, through whoever. And so to me, it's kind of stupid, because it's obvious now that all of these guys are going to make some form of money. And Ruiz, if you're Miami, you're thankful that you have Ruiz. And there's also another collective that most people don't know about, that's kind of working behind the scenes as well. It's not just Ruiz. There are other people. Ruiz is just the most vocal because he has his company and he wants to promote it. But, Miami's fortunate in the sense that they do have people that want to help them financially to get these kids to come here, to get them, get them paid. Unfortunately, in college football, we've been used to the way things have been run for 150 years, where we call those guys cheaters, right? Because you paid for this guy and that was against the rules. Well, in the last 2 or 3 years now, we have to change our mindset and say, no, this is legit. This is the way it's supposed to be run. So to me, I think the next step is have college football change the rules, allow there to be a role for a GM like Alonzo Highsmith, where he has X amount of budget based on whatever money he gets, and he's able to distribute that money, so that you don't have this sort of weird, okay, this is who you guys want. Okay, thanks for telling me. I'm going to go offer this kid now, and tell him when he gets to Miami, you'll sign this deal. So it's very unique. It's very weird. I think in the next couple of years, it'll be fixed.
All right. They've been able to, convert a couple of guys here in the last couple of weeks. How's this class? Looks like it's getting stronger, actually. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, they've been a top 10 class. It's just a matter of whether or not they're number 8, they're number 9, they're number 10, whatever. I mean, they're in the top 10. 22 commitments. They were flipped. They just recently flipped a defensive lineman, Joshua Horton from North Carolina. He was part of their class, and 6'5", 290, very productive kid, over 100 tackles his senior season for a defensive lineman. That's obviously a lot. It's a guy who's very good against the run, and it's going to help because you just lost a big body in Daryl Jackson, who decided to enter the transfer portal. He's probably headed back to Florida State. He was a 12-game starter for Miami this year, so it was good to pick up another big body defensive tackle. And Miami has to get more of those guys. Mario's made that the emphasis. They also picked up a linebacker out of Georgia, 3-star kid who was uncommitted, track guy, really fast, big bodied, 6'3", I think 215. His name's Marcelius Pulliam out of Tyrone, Georgia. So another 3-star, a guy not necessarily highly ranked, but a hungry football player who has size and speed, which is what ultimately you want here. I care less and less about the star system every single year. I keep telling people, if he's not a top
side, you're coming to my side after all these decades.
Yes. I said, if he's not a top 100 kid, I'm not worried about what he's ranked. Don't tell me, because he's number 296, he's better than the 800th guy. I think every year there's a clear-cut top 100. If the guy's in the top 100, he's special. If he's outside of that, it's his work ethic and what you can get out of him, and the way the coaches can develop him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I don't get too excited about the star stuff until I actually see them on the field. I've just watched way too many over the years.
Yeah,
come in with all this hype and
disasters.
And it's just disasters, and they just never live up to anything that you're saying. And to me, Tate Martell is like one of the more beautiful examples over the last couple of years. A guy that like had a 4 or 5-star ranking, and you're like, so he fooled Ohio State and Miami. I mean, that's the kind of shit that just
Well,
kind of drives you crazy.
Well, part of this too is, a lot of these kids have a ton of high school success, right? I mean, they like Tate Martell was part of a program at Bishop Gorman that had a bunch of kids, that went to colleges, have gone pro, and so you kind of get
But did you
blinded
watch
by.
him physically throw the ball?
Right,
I
but that's the problem. I think, and I made a tour around Broward County last week. Oh, I visited a bunch of high school coaches. I've talked to them all the time just to kind of see what's going on. And one of the questions I've asked them is how many of these college coaches come to you completely unprepared. Right, the assistants, when they come visit your school, they don't even know who the recruits are. They're kind of like, what offers does this kid have? And I would say the majority of them, I would say there's maybe 15 to 20% of these guys that actually do real homework, their own film study. And I got to tell you, a lot of them haven't coached for the University of Miami for the last 20 years. So you want to explain why there's been disasters at Miami? I think a lot of it has been based on the conversations I've had here in the last week of guys being completely unprepared and not really doing their homework because they're busy coaching. That's why, to me, college football has always run on this premise that it's an amateur sport. Oh, the reality is, like, you need more professionals in the building. You need more personnel to handle all the responsibilities. Like, how many people are in the Dolphins building working, drafting, scouting? I mean, that's in the hundreds, right? I mean, the amount of people involved in that process, and that's for what, 7 rounds of the draft and
Yeah.
potential
And
free
free
agents,
agency, yeah, and
right?
free agency.
But you sign 25 high school players every year. I mean,
Right.
uh, that's a lot more work. And then now you add the portal to it. I mean, you could be shifting 40 bodies between the end of last season and this season, up to 40 different guys potentially here for Miami, and you have what, 8 people working on that project? That's a lot of response. That's a lot of film study. That's a lot of review, and so that's why you have the mistakes, I think, at the college level. And look, you still have it at the pro level, but look, I just think it's a lot harder in college to get a real grasp of the talent if you don't do your homework. And that's what's happened at Miami for a long time.
All right. Walk us through this, because some of us weren't necessarily happy with all the assistant coaches, especially one Josh Gaddis. There has been no movement. Coaches are being hired. Deion Sanders is hiring a staff. Others are being hired around the country. Is Mario telling us by now there will be no coaching changes?
I don't think so at all. I think we're still, what we need to understand about Mario, okay, and we went through it last year.
Yeah.
I think all of this is dependent on where other guys can leave on their own accord versus being fired. Okay? You don't want your new head coach with all that money, the most expensive staff, to just be firing guys after one season, because in a sense he's admitting he's made a bunch of mistakes, right? I made a bunch of mistakes. I took all my sweet time interviewing these guys, and look at the disaster that happened. So I think this is much more about, hey, can you find another job? Can you go out there so that we don't have to go through this process? And that takes time because, look, there's still jobs that are open, right? I mean, Louisville, Scott Satterfield just left for Cincinnati. The Louisville job is open now. That's going to continue to happen here. We're still going to have more job openings and coordinators leaving and this guy going here. So the coaching carousel is still very early in the process. I don't think we're going to get any movement on the Miami front until after you get through signing day, which is, last week of December, pretty much.
All right. What else you got going on the Athletics so folks can check you out, my friend?
Well, we got a ton of stuff, man. I mean, we're putting out our freshman All-American team. I've been working on that project. We just put out a bunch of grades for all of the Power 5 teams, kind of a review. So if you want to go back and just look at where Miami ranks, no, I did not give them a good grade for this past season, but I did participate in a lot of the ACC rankings. And look, transfer portal, there's a ton of transfer portal news. There's a ton of recruiting news. Miami just lost Jalen Knighton, the running back, just went into the transfer portal. Literally about 20 minutes before you and I went on air here together. So that's constantly updating. There's 12 guys gone now, so I'm keeping track of all of that stuff. There will be more write-ups here in the weeks ahead. I'm trying to head out to some of these high school state championships over the next 2 weeks, talk to coaches, talk to players. So I will be up and about and everywhere, and keeping my eyes on the transfer portal as well.
And follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro so you can find out first when he's breaking news, and subscribe to The Athletic so you can get exceptional coverage of your Miami Hurricanes. Manny, as always, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you immensely.
All right, brother. Take care.
You got it. We'll catch up on Friday with Manny. Don't forget Caneswear. Go to caneswear.com. You order over $99, you will get free shipping. They have practically anything and everything with the Canes logo on it. They got some really cool items, from sneakers and sandals to stuff you want to hang around the bar, and posters and hats and shirts and everything, man. You name it, I'm telling you. They practically have anything and everything with the Canes logo on it. It's pretty cool. And they've got Dolphins stuff. So if you want to get some Dolphins gear, they've got Heat gear. They've got Marlins, Panthers, Inter Miami. Go check it out, man. Caneswear.com.
If you're
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.